All right, everyone. I want to welcome you back to the vacant property inspection. In this video, this is a continuation. So we're going to be talking about the utilities of a vacant property. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into this. Apologize, but my computer is wanting to act slow. So within this training session here about utilities, we're going to talk about photographing and properly documenting the utilities at a vacant property. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. And as we all know, because most of us live somewhere and most of us are responsible for water, electric, and gas. Doesn't matter if you're in an apartment or a single family home. These are our basic utilities that we use every day. So at a vacant property, these are some of the things that you want to check. And utilities is probably going to be one of the most important things that you check at a vacant property in order to prove that that property is actually vacant. All right. Guys, a picture is worth 1,000 words. We're going to be talking about some case studies later on in the next video, but we're going to be talking about some case studies on how field inspectors' negligence caused damage, and also how a field inspector's proof save them thousands of dollars. So we're going to talk about some case studies later on, but just so that you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And with vacant properties, with any of these properties, it does not matter, because in this field inspection industry, we paint pictures with our photos. The proof is actually in the photo if we photograph it. And it's basically our job to take photos of all the utilities and provide proof of what the status is. Either they're on or they're off. That is our job, okay? So we're going to talk about some ways on how you can prove a utility is actually on or off, all right? So when it comes to the vacant property utilities, one of the most important photos that you can take at a vacant property is a water spigot. As you see in the picture down below, it's just a standard water spigot. Okay, so that is one of the most important pictures that you can take, because you can easily, if it's off, you can easily turn it on real quick to see if the water is running, see if it still has water running at the house. So some of the proper way to check a water spigot is obvious, because if the water spigot is off, you take a photo of the spigot with your hand on the handle. So again, we turn the water spigot, see if the water is on. But however, if the water happens to be off at that particular property, then you need to actually put your hand on the water spigot to show that you actually turn the water spigot on, and to prove that there is no water out of the spigot. All right, so that is how you prove that the water is turned off when you are testing a water spigot. Now, the water spigot again. How do you document proof that the water is still on? Well, you basically take a photo, you turn the water on, and you take a photo just like you see in this picture. You see the water pouring out. It's strong water flow, and it's pouring out of the spigot, so it's obvious to me that that water is still on. That spigot had been turned on for just a few seconds, because usually when a water spigot is turned off, guess what? You're just getting residual, whatever's residual in there. All right. All right, so here are just a few little tips, and I just kind of covered that just a minute ago, but sometimes you'll still have water that remains in the lines. So what you want to do is when you turn the valve on, you want to wait momentarily to see if it finished draining out. If it finished draining out, then you know that the water is really turned off. However, if it's constantly keep running, then obviously the water is turned on. And either one of those situations, you want to take your photo. Go ahead and take a photo to prove that the water is off, and take your photo to prove that the water is on. All right, so that one was pretty simple, pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. Now we're going to talk about gas utilities. So one of the things that you want to do is you want to photograph and document if the gas utilities are on or off. One thing that you should know is that not all properties have natural gas connected to, well, you know, the standard natural gas utilities, because some properties have propane tanks that deliver gas from the tank to the home in order to make things work. Maybe could be heating elements, stoves, could be anything like that. But it's important for you to know that. So we're going to talk about propane tanks as well. So I don't know if any of you have ever seen a gas meter, but we're going to show some different examples. But when you are checking the gas, in order to determine if it's on or off, if the gas meter is shut off, the valve handle will be turned perpendicular to the pipe, indicating that the gas has been turned off. So we're going to kind of show you a picture of that, all right? So with gas utilities, basically, this is an example of a gas meter, and you see it has the gauges and the dials and things like that. You don't need a picture of the meter and the dials itself. Okay, what I'm going to show you next is what you need to look for at a gas meter. So because you will need a photo of the position of the valve. Okay, so let's talk about the position of the valve so you can determine if a gas meter is actually on or off. As you can see in the picture, this gas meter is turned on. This valve here is turned perpendicular to this pipe. So that indicates that the gas meter is on. All right, so let's show you another example. This gas meter here, you see it's aligned actually with the mounting holes, because a lot of the times a gas meter will have two holes so that a padlock or some kind of lock can keep people from from switching that valve to on. So this meter is actually off, and sometimes you'll see these meters, they won't have the lock that you see the arrow pointing to. However, the valve itself will be in that position, in the lock position, which indicates that that meter is off. Now, propane tanks. Usually you'll find propane tanks in a lot of the rural areas. I used to do a lot of work in a lot of rural areas, so I ran across a ton of propane tanks. So you'll see them in rural areas. So anytime that you come across a vacant property, and first time vacant or a known vacant, then you want to make sure that you're checking either the gas meter, if it's equipped with gas, or a propane tank if it has that, because the propane tank can actually help us determine if a property is actually vacant or not. So if you're ever at a home and a propane tank is visible, always take a picture of the tank gauge so that they can see how much pressure is in the tank, and they can kind of gauge how much gas is actually in the tank, and if any gas is actually being used from one inspection period to another. All right, so make sure you take those pictures. Again, if there's a propane tank at the property, more than likely it's used to heat up the hot water tank. It may be used for the kitchen stove, could be used for the heating units. So just keep those things in mind. That's what propane tanks are used for. Any of the regular, the normal things that we use, maybe you have a home with all electric, or maybe you have a home with electric and gas. So in this particular case, if a home has a propane tank, more than likely it is used to um, as a heating element for different appliances that is located within that property. So just on a side note, guys, there's going to be times where you're expected to actually contact utility companies regarding, maybe you run across an issue at a property. And let's talk a little about issues that can actually happen at a property and why you would need to actually contact a utility company. Let's just say there's some kind of active water leak. I've been to a lot of properties that had active water leaks, couldn't turn off the water, maybe a pipe burst, whatever the case was, but there was no way to turn the water off. So in situations like that, you want to make sure that you call the water company and advise them of the situation. All right. Also, even with gas leaks, I've been in situations where I smelled natural gas. So if you're ever in, natural gas, guys, both of these can cause damages, but natural gas can actually cause an explosion. It can really cause some major damage. So anytime you come in contact with a property and you're smelling gas, that could be an indication of a leak. And I would probably be more safe than sorry, and I would actually contact the gas company for that county, for the city, or wherever that property is located. So in order for you to report a gas leak. Guys, gas leaks are an important issue that you want to immediately address if you run across that situation. And for either one of these situations, whether it's an active water leak or maybe a gas leak, you want to make sure that you call your vendor, the person that you are performing inspections for, and advise them of the situation as well. Because we want to get this information back to the mortgage company as quickly as possible, so that they can rectify the issue. All right. All right, so let's talk about the electric utilities. One thing that you want to do, you always want to photograph the electric meter. All right, it doesn't matter if it's analog or digital, because they do come in different types. However, the analog won't help you very much, but I always get a picture of it regardless. All right, because it does have meters on there, and if someone is comparing from one inspection to the next, they can always look at the dials to see if the dials have changed to verify if that property is actually running electric to the property. Again, some meters are analog. As you see to the meter to the left, that is an analog meter, and the meter to the right is a digital meter. The digital meters are mostly what we use today, and they're also called smart meters. You'll run across some of the analog meters, but there's not a lot in service. However, you will run across those. So you want to make sure you go ahead and get a picture of your electric meters when you're at a property. All right, guys, we're going to mainly be focusing on electric meters because, again, that is the most popular. And electric meters can actually be pretty tricky to read. Because if you're at an analog meter, let me go back. If you're at an analog meter, if you see right here in the center, right below the dials, there's another dial that spins. Okay? And your photograph won't really capture that, but your eyes will. So if you look at that analog meter and see if that center dial is actually spinning, that center dial right here, see if it's actually spinning. If it is spinning, that indicates that the power is turned on. If it's not spinning, that indicates that the power is turned off. All right, so some of these electric meters can be tricky to read. All right, because the LCD that's in the meters, they change every 5 to 10 seconds. All right, so once you have a reading displayed on the face of the meter, go ahead and snap your photo. All right. So we're going to talk about now some other common types of digital electric meters that tell you if the power is on or off. Okay, so we're going to go. Let's jump into some other electric type meters. All right, this one here, this meter right here is either open or closed. Okay, so you'll see these meters. As you can see in the diagram here, you see the meter to the left, it says it's open. Well, that means the power is shut off to the property. Meaning if it starts with an O, that means it's off. So even if you can't see the PN, so OPN means it's open or off. And when you see CLS, it means closed. That means the power to the property is on. When I first started trying to learn and read digital meters, I actually thought it was the opposite way. But honestly, this is totally opposite than what I thought. Open means that it's off, and close means that it's on. So essentially, if you see a close, like you see on this meter here, just think about, I had to find a way to relate, in order for me to remember. I think about something as being closed as a circuit. A circuit can now flow. But when something is open, power can no longer flow. That's how I remembered it. That's how I, know how to tell the difference. So closed, meaning they are making contact together and now energy can flow, or open, where energy cannot flow or voltage cannot flow through that circuit. All right, so this is a lot of the more recent electric meters that I've seen. All right, some other electric meters will have like an arrow or a box pointing towards the right of the meter. And it could be either pointing to the right of the meter, it could be flashing from left to right. And that is usually an indicator that the power is on. I don't know if you can tell, but as you can see, it starts at two blocks, then it goes to 3 blocks, then it goes to 4 blocks. And that's usually an indication that the power is actually on to that property. So another type of digital meter that you may run across may have words on it, like delivered. Okay, and if you run across this kind of meter here, that's an indication that the power is actually on. Okay, so these are all little tidbits that you can use, because you will run into different electric meters and you need to know how to determine if a meter is actually on or off. Another kind of meter that you might run across has 2 flashing arrows in opposite directions, just as you see below. This also means that the power is off. It's kind of difficult to go through every meter, but this will give you a general overview of the different meters that you'll run across and how to actually tell if they are actually on or off. Now, when you run across a digital electric meter that has an LCD display like this one, and as you can see that you can't see any numbers on the display, it's basically completely blank. That just means that there is no power going to the meter. So essentially, the power is off. All right, another smart meter, when you see a display that says 88888, that just means that the meter is working itself. That really doesn't tell you much, but you never want to photograph 88888 or whatever, how many eights it has, But you never want to really photograph that. You actually want to photograph the actual numbers that pop up after that, because it basically shows the usage. Here are some other acceptable forms of electric meters, because sometimes you run into a property where there's no electric meter at all. Maybe the electric meter was removed by the electric company. A lot of times the electric company will do that. So if there's no electric meter at the property, what you want to do to prove that the electricity is off is take a picture of the removed electric meter, as you see in this picture here, where the meter was removed. I snapped a photo to show, hey, there's no electricity to this house because, hey, it doesn't have a meter. Again, remember what I said. Your pictures will paint a picture. Your photos will paint a picture. You know, your photos are worth 1,000 words, you know, because it gives them an area of, or give them pictures to look at to show what is the difference between this inspection and this inspection. If the electric is on, if the electric is off, it gives them different ideas of what is actually going on at the property, because you are providing proof. This is just another picture, some more pictures of some removed electric meters, just to kind of give you an idea, and you know, so that you'll know what to look for if you see something like that. Sometimes I've been in situations where they have the electric company upgraded the meters, so sometimes you'll see an empty box like that. However, there may be a newer meter installed somewhere else. It's usually close by, but you know, just make sure that you're looking around for any kind of meters, because you will run into situations like that where you'll have an empty box, but the electric company has updated the meters, so they relocated the meter somewhere else. So make sure that you are paying attention to that as well. All right, analog meters. We talked a little bit about analog meters, but I just wanted to go through this one more time real quick for you. This dial in the middle, it spins as current is flowing through it. So if that dial in the center is not moving, the electric is off. If it is moving, that means you have an ample amount of supply, electricity going into the house, which indicates that the electric is on. Now, most companies, they'll tell you that these photos, when you take photos of analog meters, it does not prove that the electric is on or off, because, yeah, and it's true, because from a photo, unless you're taking a video, but from a photo, you can't really tell if this meter is actually moving. So, yeah, it's useless taking a picture of it, but you still want to go ahead and provide it to say that, hey, I checked the meter. This is, it has an analog meter, and if you can see it moving, make notes to say you've seen the dial moving. If you couldn't, make notes, say you couldn't. But you also want to provide other photographic evidence to prove your electric is on or off, if it has an analog meter. All right, we kind of spoke about vote sticks before, but we're going to talk about using these vote sticks on checking your electricity at a home, because that is the main purpose of the vote stick, is used to determine if the electricity is on or off at vacant properties. That's what we use a vote stick for. And the type of vote stick that we use is non-contact voltage detector. All right, it's a non-contact vote stick. There are some other ones which we'll kind of go over later, and I'll show you a few pictures of what not to use as a vote stick. These are non-contact. So, but basically, as you can see in the picture to the right, this is my personal no-contact vote stick. As you can see, it's pin shaped, and when it touches an electrical current or comes close to an electrical current, the tip will light up and it makes a beeping sound. All of them are they're similar, but they're going to be a little bit different as far as their functionality, because there's some that just light up and don't beep. So just just find one that you like, because they started using these because they are safer to use when we use them properly. All right. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see the tip real good, but as you can see, that tip is basically plastic. Now there's some, the contact ones, there's some that look like this, but then it has a metal tip. That's going to be considered a contact one. So you do not want one with a metal tip. All right, try to find one that is completely covered so that you can remain safe. All right, volt sticks. So basically, if a photo of the digital meter cannot be up, if you can't get a photo of the digital meter, or you maybe the meter is missing, whatever the case, you have to use a volt stick in order to prove the status of the electricity at the property. All right, so we're going to show you some places where you can actually use a volt stick. All right, so some places that the proper way to use it is you can check it at the electric meter. But for the electric meter, I want you to be sure to check with your client that you're working for, your vendor, to make sure that that is approved, because some clients, some vendors don't want you to even go near the electric meter. They don't want you even inside. They don't want you inside. They don't want you at it. They don't want you touching it, So make sure you check with your vendor. However, there are some clients that want you to test the electric meter to check to see if there's any power there. So that's the reason why I put electric, the places that you can check voltage to use your volt stick is at an electric meter. All right, the next place is at the right side of an electrical outlet. All right, so you got 2 slots. So you want it on the right side. So we're going to go through some of those too. The third place is the cables running to the outside AC unit. All right, that's also a reliable location for you to check, for you to use your volt stick. And the other place is the main breaker panel at your at the electrical box. We all have a breaker box usually inside our homes. The thing about the electrical panel, you do not want to remove the covers, okay? Just if you can open the door, usually they have a little access door, and you can test it from there, but we're going to go through that as well. All right, so we're going to start with the electric meter. Again, always consult your work order, consult with your vendor, to make sure that they are okay with you using it. Usually they'll give you a little bit of training to let you know how to use it. Some clients don't. But it's important for you to know how to use this. But when you're using a volt stick up against an electric meter, for those clients that want you to test the electric meter, your volt stick has to be touching the meter. If the volt stick is just being held up in the air, more than likely these vendors will be able to tell that, and so they won't pay you. So make sure that when you are testing your electric meter, try to get it as close to somewhere as possible where it's showing that there's actually voltage, that the electric is actually on and there's actually voltage running through the wiring. So that's one thing that you want to do. All right, as you can see in this picture, this is the right side of an electrical outlet. And as you can see, the light is lit up once I stuck it in the slot. All right, so that's it lights up and it beeps. So that indicates to me that there is voltage running through to that socket. That's an indication that the electricity is on. But sometimes this is one of my best little, other than the water spigot, this little volt stick has helped me out wonders. Okay, because I could, say I'm walking up to a property, but I'm not quite sure if it's occupied or vacant, and there's an electrical outlet right by the front door. Guess what? I'm sticking my pin in the electrical outlet to test to see if the electricity is working, and I'm snapping a photo. The same thing with the water spigot. Usually there's a water spigot close to the front door. So, if I can't really tell if it's occupied or vacant, I might turn it on for a minute and see if this water is turned on. And as I'm there, snapping a picture of it. Okay. So those are just some little tips that I wanted to share with you. But as far as when you're testing the outlet, you want to just make sure that there's power actually going to the outlet. Some exterior outlets, some properties don't have exterior outlets, and sometimes you can put your volt stick on the exterior of the light fixture housing, and sometimes you'll get a signal there that the power is on as well. So, just play around with your volt stick, check out different areas that you can use your volt sticks in, make sure it's working properly and things like that. Just practice with it. The other one here is the AC wiring that's from the air conditioning. As you can see right below the red arrow is the air conditioning unit. And if you see the little brown box that's mounted on the wall, that is the electrical supply to the AC unit, to the condensing unit. So a very good place that some clients want you to try is to put your volt stick is to put it on the wiring, from the AC unit. Okay, they consider some companies consider that the best place for you to check electricity, is at the wiring to the condensing unit. So you can also check for power there. Here we go. The main breaker. As you can see, the breaker box door is open, and I am placing my volt stick on one of the breakers. I'm just touching it, I'm just sticking it on the breaker, and as you can see, it's lit up. So that's indication that there is power going to that panel, which tells me that the electric is turned on. So here are some things that you should never do with your volt sticks. All right. And volt sticks, your hands, never handle any wiring, any electrical wiring that is bare, that is exposed and bare. Don't even use your volt sticks there, okay? Because that is a safety hazard. All right. The number one thing is your safety. All right. So again, some clients don't want you to use the electrical meter, but some say that it's incorrect to use your volt stick at an electrical meter. So again, it depends on your client. Always check your work order and check with your vendor. And the other place that you should never use your volt stick is in an uncovered electrical panel. Let's just say the electrical panel that you just seen, and I took off all the gray covering, so all you have now is the exposed breakers and all the wires behind that gray door. Never take that panel off. All right, everything should be done just as you just seen it in the last photo, with the panel face on, and just go to the breakers. All right, so let's see here. So the reason some clients don't want you to use a volt stick at an electrical meter is because it could give you a false positive. And so we want to, do our best to provide accurate results. So, again, you may have to provide other evidence to prove if the electricity is either on or off at a property. So here we go. Even though the meter may be turned off, you can still pick up indications of voltage from the live wires inside inside the little box from the power company. And so depending on where the cables are routed, you may be picking up the service side of the cables. So that's the reason why, you could be picking up a false positive. And that's the reason why they consider this not to be a conclusive way to determine if the electric is actually on or off. So again, make sure that you have as much documented proof as possible to prove your findings. All right, so for an exterior vacant, your test may not, we kind of talked about this. Your volt stick test, it may not be a true reflection of the utility status. Maybe the breaker is shut off from the inside of the house. So, of course, you may not pick up any voltage there. So just remember that your photos will support your attempts based on the access that you have. So the more photos that you provide, the more proof you are providing and showing them that, hey, I couldn't do this. Hey, this is not on. Hey, this is off. So you have to provide enough. Don't go cheap on this, okay? All right, you have to provide enough photographic evidence in order to prove your findings. So right now we're just gonna show you. I'm just gonna show you a couple of pictures, some unapproved testers. I actually was using this one at first before they before they unapproved these kind of testers. But this tester right here, you see with the two prongs, the red and black, it says 120 and 240. This little gadget here was working wonders for me, because all I had to do was stick the two leads inside of an electrical socket, and bingo, it lit up and told me if it was 120 or 120 volts or 240 volts. So, but these are unapproved testers. As you can see here, these are voltmeters that you can do, that they have that also test voltage, but these are not approved. Here are a few more. Some of them are similar, some of them are not. As you can see, some of these have metal tips, and these are all contact volt testers. So you do not want to use any of these. What you want to use is the correct one, as I showed you earlier in the course. All right, basically that'll do it for this lesson of electricity of utility. So that'll do it for this this lesson. So basically in our next lesson, we're going to talk about a few case studies so that you can know why we do what we do, why it's important, and the damage that it can cause when we don't do our job correctly, or even how we protect ourselves with our photos, when someone comes back and tries to blame us or accuse us of not doing our job properly. So stay tuned for the next video. We're going to talk about these case studies. Let's go.